what you're gonna do.
You can't fight the future.
Wrestling God.
ProWrestlingRadio.com presents.
Are you talking to me?
Pro Wrestling Radio live on live.
You think The Rock actually cares?
What is he doing here?
Oh, it's true.
I'm bringing everybody with me.
That's hard time.
To be the man. 6-1.
Can you feel it?
I hate your ever. Hold the damn phone.
That's how I roll.
You're sex, not the big dick. Come get some. Because I've done all of that.
The king is back on his throne.
Excuse me.
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
And we are live with Pro Wrestling Radio. My name is Eric Gargiulo. I am joined, as always, here by my friend, my compadre, my partner in crime, Luke Hawx, and we have a big show tonight. We are live here on ProWrestlingRadio.com. You can hear us about every other week live on the website. I embed a Mixler player in here, and all you got to do is just go into the website, go onto the listen page, click on that, and you're good to go. And if you miss any of the show, or you want to catch the last couple shows, you can go to iTunes, you go to YouTube. They're all over the place. But we'll save the self-promotion for after we're done rapping here. But Luke, welcome back to the show, and I know you got a lot of things going on. Why don't you just give me a real brief update on what's new at Wildcat Sports, and at the end of the show, we can talk more about it.
Man, Wildcat has been going nuts. We got a lot of big things and plans in the works for us. We got some major announcements that's going to be dropping later on this week. We just shot a special with ABC News locally that's going to be airing tomorrow on WGNO here. It's just been crazy, man. We got a big live event this weekend, June 8th at Meisler Middle School, and things are going nuts. It's literally blowing up out the box. I'm sitting on a very good product here, and it's exciting to watch, you know, our students and our wrestlers grow from the bottom and see the things, how much they're branching out, how far they're going, and how they're getting all these other bookings around the country right now. And it's a blessing, man. That's all I can say about it. It's a blessing.
That's awesome. That's real good. And, you know, I know a couple of your students. I met a couple of your students when you came up here for Extreme Rising. Just real good dudes. And from, you know, everything I've seen, the video, I know you sent me a video from just everything I've seen. You know, you got a lot of talent over there in Wildcat.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. And these guys, you know, no mistake, these guys haven't had it easy. I put these guys through hell, you know, for every 10 guys that come in, one guy makes it. You know, so that says a lot about these guys. I don't take it easy on them. I make these guys work and pay their dues, and these guys really are hungry and they want this. So it's proud to watch them, you know, do their thing.
That's great. You know, let's get right into the topics. And as you and I were talking about before we came on the air here, I know I promoted it quite a bit. We touched on it a little bit on the last show here. What the agenda is anyway today is for about the first 20, 30 minutes or so, we'll hit on current topics and what's going on in wrestling. And then after that, you and I are going to dig deep. We're going to go back into the archives, back into our past, and talk about the CZW XPW feud. You were on the XPW side as a wrestler. I was on the CZW side. I did the announcing. I worked in the booking there. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. It's over 10 years now. It's crazy. You know, when I was thinking about it today and I was looking at the timeline and just the fact that it's over 10 years, it's just crazy to think that stuff was 11 years ago.
And what's crazy about it is that people still talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, commonly, people still always bring it up. So that just goes to show you the effect both companies have had on pro wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially if you were lucky enough to live in the Philly area or just follow the DVDs at the time. There was some real good stuff, but we'll definitely get into that, I promise, with a lot of time remaining in about 20 minutes or so. But, you know, first topic I want to throw your way. I don't know how familiar you are with the story because it's broken in the last 24 to 48 hours. I know you're busy with Wildcat Sports. But Rampage Jackson, former UFC light heavyweight champion, as far as name value goes, I would say one of the biggest stars in MMA over the last couple of years. He's one of these guys that has kind of separated himself from the pack, and he's developed a character for himself. He was an actor in the A-Team. He played Mr. T's old part. Well, he signed with TNA Wrestling. He's going to be doing some kind of a hybrid contract mixed in time with TNA and with Bellator. They're calling it a landmark partnership. I'm calling it disaster walking. I really don't think that this thing has much legs. I know that it's real shiny, on the first day, and I know everybody's all excited about it, but you look at TNA's history with MMA fighters, and it's not good. You look at, they signed King Mo last May, and I was looking today, and it took him almost a year to have his pro wrestling debut. They signed this guy last May, and this guy's already a fighter. He's a division champion in wrestling. Rampage is a wrestler. He's got a division background. He's a fighter. What do you think, Luke? Do you think that this is a good deal? Do you think this is a bad deal? How do you think this is going to work out?
It's good and bad. I hate to just bash on one thing. Is it good for TNA? Yeah. Rampage, I think, will help them draw ratings. I think he's a great character. He definitely has a big name value, especially in the MMA world. So you might get some people who tuned in from that world to check it out. On the negative side, I see things as, I think you should be worried about taking care of your boys, your in-house boys, more.
Yeah.
And pushing them instead of, bringing some guy from the outside who's probably just there to collect a paycheck.
Oh, I totally get it. It's, and that's the first thing I thought of is they're probably, I'm going to guess, and I don't know this for sure, so I don't want to say this as fact, but I'm going to guess that TNA probably isn't even paying for him. My guess is that Viacom is paying for him and that everybody's doing each other a favor by him going on TNA, is giving Bellator some exposure and et cetera, because there were plenty of stories about Dixie not even having money to spend. But that was the first thing I thought of, is that here you have this guy coming in, he's going to take up a spot right at the top, and you have these guys that have been clawing their way in TNA, some of these guys forever, and here it is, another guy that walks through the door that gets one of the top spots. The guy can't even wrestle. He doesn't even know how to wrestle yet. He's in his early 30s, but in fighting years, that's a long time. He's had multiple knee surgeries. I mean, I just don't know what you could expect out of a guy that didn't really show a lot of heart when he was fighting for the UFC. I mean, that is the biggest company in MMA that you can get, and this guy's fighting on the biggest stage, and he really didn't have a lot of heart there, so I can't imagine how anybody could think he's going to show any more heart, wrestling in TNA, which is far and away the second tier to WWE, when he wasn't even given any heart when he was fighting in front of UFC fans.
Right, and I mean, I think that fighting in the UFC, though, and fighting at TNA is completely different.
Yeah.
Now, the question is, how much heart is he going to put into training and taking it seriously?
Exactly.
As a performer standpoint, the guy's a hell of a performer. I mean, he's similar to a Mike Tyson, where, and I mean, not nearly as big as Mike Tyson, of course, but Mike Tyson knew how to sell tickets. I think Rampage did the same, as well as a common name that doesn't nowadays is Chael Sonnen. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah, Chael Sonnen.
Yeah, Sonnen. The guy is a performer.
Yeah.
He knows how to sell tickets. So, and that's where you can give a guy like Rampage credit. And if Dixie's not paying for Rampage, then kudos to TNA, because it would be dumb on them not to take that offer.
Yeah.
That would be like someone offering to bring a major name guy to Wildcat, and I don't have to pay anything for it. Of course, why wouldn't I take it?
Yeah.
So you can't knock them if they're getting a free big name out of something. That's just, you can't do it. But at the same time, if they were going out of pocket for it, you would have to go, hey, man, you think you would want to take care of your guys first when you see they have issues with, the kid in the hospital.
What's his name? Zema Iron.
Yeah, and where some of these guys, Stevie Richards, for example, when he was there, these guys could have applied for food stamps when they had full-time contracts with TNA. So, but you bring in a guy from Brandon Jacobs, you bring in girls from Jersey Shore.
Right.
I'm not a big fan of that, so to say. So when you bring in these people who are just there to collect paychecks instead of people with heart, and I do understand sometimes you need that, but I would much rather prefer to have people who want to be there and want to make a product stronger than there's somebody just wanting to collect a paycheck.
Well, let me ask you this. As a professional wrestler, as somebody that's done this for 14 years now, I mean, the expectations here that a guy, Rampage Jackson, that has a lot of wear and tear. This isn't just any other athlete coming in and learning how to wrestle professionally. This is a guy that's pretty beaten up. And, he's had multiple knee surgeries. He's in his early 30s. He hasn't looked that great in fights. I mean, just the idea of him learning now at this stage of the game how to be a wrestler and how to be a wrestler on an elite level. It's not like this guy is going to be a wrestler and he's going to start doing some indies to get the green off. This guy is going, right to pay-per-view. I mean, how hard is that for somebody that's already banged up to go in there and try and do this thing at an elite level?
The thing is, you can protect a guy like that. And, I mean, they will. I mean, look at Snooki. Like, she came in and she wrestled on WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And she didn't do much, but she wrestled a match. But, they're going to protect him. It's not like the guy's going to be going, 20 minutes toe-to-toe with Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They're going to put this guy in these similar spots that they did probably like, who was the Pac-Man Jones?
Yeah.
They brought Pac-Man in and made him a tag team champion, but they protected him. So can he make the transition? Hell yeah, he can make the transition. Like, again, it's all a matter of how hard this guy wants to work and how serious he takes it, and how hard they protect him. I think they can protect him well. And I'll give you a prime example that better than anybody. Paul E. Paul E. did it in ECW a lot.
Yeah.
He played to guys' strengths, and he always covered up guys' weaknesses. So with that being said, I don't know what Rampage's weaknesses will be, but as long as they cover him up, you never know. It could be a home run for him.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think what you saw with King Mo is you saw a guy that had the same attitude as Rampage Jackson. I believe he's a little younger. I know he doesn't have as much wear and tear in MMA as Rampage did. And what happened? He got hurt, training for MMA, so it derailed his wrestling, training. I mean, I think when you're training to be an MMA fighter at such an elite level and training to be a wrestler at an elite level and your body's already falling apart as it is, I just really don't know how this guy's going to be able to keep it together over the course of a year.
Well, here's the thing. They're not going to put this guy through all-out dog-of-war training.
Right.
So to speak. This guy's not going to go there and do what they do at Wildcat Sports. When I got a guy come through the door, I have guys doing squats, push-ups, sit-ups, and I'm talking about hundreds up to thousands.
Right.
Running for miles. And, they blood, sweat, and tears earning their way to get in the ring.
Yeah.
They're not going to do that with a guy like Rampage Jackson.
Yeah.
He's going to be catered to. He's going to get in there, and he's not going to have to put his body through so much to speak the conditioning that a normal guy would get. He's going to be babied. So, I guess I don't see – from my standpoint, it's hard for me to believe a guy like that couldn't make it in wrestling when I know he's going to have so many breaks that most guys don't get.
Yeah. No, I guess that makes sense. It just, it's like with TNA, they're having such problems with the ratings right now. And, ratings just aren't increasing. As a matter of fact, they're decreasing. They're having some of the worst ratings in the history of the company. And I just don't know right now when you have such a volatile time in the company and you have all kinds of fans tuning out as it is. You have this aces and eights thing, which I think is a bit of a disaster. I mean, you just look at the numbers and it shows that people aren't buying it. And now you're trying to rebuild on an MMA fighter where, it's just, I don't know. I think that there's better value into working with what you got, going out and getting a guy like a Stevie Richards, going out and getting a guy like yourself, going out and getting a couple of hands that could go in there right away and put some new faces on your television show than putting Rampage on, who probably isn't even going to get in the ring, for another 6 months as a wrestler. So I don't know. I guess we differ a little bit there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you never know. I guess only time will tell. So and people are going to see it different. I think they would benefit a lot more having myself because I sell tickets. You know what I'm saying? I would put asses in the seats. I'd probably sell that sumbitch out Ricky Morton style.
Yeah, of course. I mean, let's get real here for a second.
Yeah, let's just be real about it.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, the best of luck to TNA and Rampage. Of course, you want to see a company do good because it provides jobs for the boys. The more work for the boys, the better. I don't agree with everything every wrestling company does, but that doesn't mean I want to see a company go under. People say, oh, TNA sucks, TNA this, that, or, but people say the same thing about WWE. Oh, WWE sucks, or this company sucks. Or, man, the more companies we got around, the better. But it would be nice to see, some of them ran a little better. I think TNA can do a better job with running things.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely glad they're around, and I'd like to see them stick around for a long, long time and even grow. But, I'm not in control of it. You're not in control of it. All we can do is sit here and hope for the best and hope the right guys get in control and make things right over there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's talk about something else. Dolph Ziggler, he's been cleared to come back. He's been out for a little while with concussions. And, you've been in the business for 14 years. I've been around the business for a long time. And, let's say 14 years ago, 20 years ago, however long it's been, there really wasn't a whole lot of attention paid to concussions. And, when I got into the business, I'm sure when you got into the business, you just went out there and went. Whether you had a headache, whether you stubbed your toe, whether you had a concussion, you just wrestled. And and now they're taking precautions after, the Chris Benoit tragedy really helped open up eyes when it comes to concussions and things like that. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are a little sour that Dolph's been sitting out so long, but I think it's a wonderful thing that for everything that people criticize the WWE for, that they would put the best interests of their wrestler, their world champion, who I'm sure they wanted out there, they'd put their best interest into his health as opposed to pressuring him to go out there and wrestle with this concussion. I think it's a great thing.
Concussions are no joke, dude. I've had probably 15 to 20 of them. And I've always had to get out there and go. I'm glad they're paying more attention to them. I have trouble remembering a lot of things. My memory is shot, and I would so to speak think it's from that.
Yeah.
It's concussions are something I definitely don't want to play with.
Wait, you don't remember the $500 I lent you in PWU that one time we were?
I forgot all about that. I don't know what you're talking about.
There you go.
So was that to buy Tyra her ring that I bought her? She threw away.
Yeah, that was the other one.
Oh, okay. No, but yeah, they're concussions are serious, man, and they're really damaging to your body. And I'm glad that there's more research on them. And I wish they can reverse effects. I don't know what they're going to do in the future with it, but I think more injuries need to be paid attention to. I mean, take for granted you got guys who are going to milk injuries. Mm-hmm. And, I for every good thing people do, there's somebody that's going to do something bad. But I'm just glad they're paying more attention to people's bodies. And people don't realize how much we put our bodies through. A lot of people had this impression that it doesn't hurt, that wrestling's fake, they don't hit each other. We have no off season. We got no time to let our bodies heal. Yeah. You go out there night after night, you're beat up. Look at the ratings of these guys and the effects. These guys get in there, and they get all pilled up, they get drugged up because they get caught up in this machine, and they got to keep going, and it's just a downward spiral.
Yeah.
It's something that's a part of the business that I wish could change. It's one thing I wish I could change in this business.
Yeah. I think the more attention that's being paid to it, the better. You kind of feel bad for, the guys that have been participating in this business since, the late 1800s that had plenty of concussions. I mean, a lot of the guys that you and I watched as kids who are walking around now with problems due to the concussions. But it's nice to know that at least this generation that we're watching, there's going to come a point in time where you're going to see less and less of this because the generations are going to catch up, and you're just going to start having generations and turnover of guys that were wrestling in this era where more attention was paid to it, and I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is true or not, and I'm not sure how I feel about this, but I heard WWE was even going one step further, and they're making guys in their beginners class wear headgear.
I heard that too, actually.
So I don't know if so I'm assuming it's true.
Yeah.
And you want to say, hey, good job, that's awesome, but at the same time you want to go, man, suck it up and let these guys hit their heads so they can realize what they're getting themselves into, because I didn't get paid to train, brother.
Yeah.
I went across country. I slept in my car. I took chances. I paid for schooling.
Yeah.
And people pay for schooling. Where these guys are going there and walking in and getting paid good salaries to do nothing but work out. So I think they don't appreciate the business as much, and that's why these younger guys, they get rushed on TV. They get rushed out there, and then by the time they're 25, 26, they get released. and they have nothing to fall back on, or they can't go back into living a normal life. And that leads to more of a depression, to where these guys want to kill themselves and, again, get all drugged up and get, find all these escapes from normal life.
Yeah. No, I'll tell you a quick story. I don't know how many people know this. I don't even know if you know this, but I used to wrestle, actually, way before I got into announcing. And I trained with Simon Diamond and Jim Kettner out of Delaware. I can tell you some stories about that guy on another show.
I heard you were training with Burt Prentice down in Tennessee. Excuse me.
Burt Prentice, Jim Kettner, pretty much the same thing. But I mean, just allegations, of course, nothing confirmed. But so. The first match, that he had me do for him were battle royals. We would do these Royal Rumble battle royals. I was only in there maybe a minute or 2 minutes. So anyway, this was the first match I was in. Hit the ring, kind of get in the corner with this one dude who stiffed the living daylights out of me, welcoming me to the ring, which is fine, expected it. So then I go, I'm eliminated over the top rope, and it was one of the things I never really learned was how to go over the top rope, but yet here I am booked on all these battle royals, so you just kind of figure it out. And I went over and I took this crazy bump, landed right on my head, and I remember just the whole place going black. I just remember seeing black, but I could hear everything that was going on around me. It's kind of weird because I can remember this just like it was yesterday. I hear the crowd and everybody, the place pop, but I'm just seeing black and little kind of like a camera or something. It's just kind of fades in, the people are fading in. And I remember going in the back afterwards. And everybody's coming up to me telling me what a great bump that I took. So, of course, I kind of sold it that I meant to do it. But the only reason I took the bump is because I didn't know what I was doing. And that's what I would wind up doing on these battle royals. I would take these crazy bumps over the top rope. And it wasn't that I was trying to be Mick Foley. It's just I had no idea what I was doing, but I kept landing on my head. And after a while, it started to scare the crap out of me. And I had only been working, a couple of months. And here I am, walking around with 3 or 4 concussions already. And I learned fast, what you got to do to protect yourself. So, I mean, it's real easy to come down with one of these concussions, and it's real easy not to even know that you're walking around with a concussion.
Yeah, it's. I mean, that's one of the first things we teach at Wildcat when they get in the ring is how to properly get in and out the ring and how to get thrown out the ring, because that's, like you said, it's usually one of the first things you're going to do or be involved in.
Yeah. It's crazy, but no. So I'm all for this extra emphasis, on preventing concussions and head injury. I'm not sure if you saw it. I saw it in bits and pieces. TNA had Slammiversary over the weekend, and not really. You know what? We're talking about these high risk matches and these injuries. You had this match on the show, which I did watch. It was Taryn Terrell and Gail Kim. And these girls had this hardcore style matchup, and they did this deal where Taryn Terrell gave Gail Kim this Ace Crusher RKO where her back landed on the floor. It was on a mat on the floor, but it was still on the floor. And it makes me wonder, it made me wonder what in the hell they're thinking. I mean, everybody on Twitter is talking about what a great match it is. And I mean, Luke, I could throw you off a 3-story building and people would say it's a great match, but what does it accomplish? Right. And I don't know. It made me a little uneasy watching the women. I don't mean to be chauvinistic, but I mean, I'm uneasy watching guys take bumps like that. But seeing women take bumps like that, it was a little uneasy to watch.
Well, Gail Kim's very talented. Mm-hmm. Not to throw the girl underneath the bus, but everything I've seen from Taryn Terrell, I haven't been impressed at all.
Yeah.
I don't feel like that.
Go easy on her. She's a former guest on Pro Wrestling Radio.
No, I mean, she's probably
a
nice girl, and she's from New Orleans. She's from my hometown.
Oh, okay.
She's doing some stunts and stuff here. I think I've met her once or twice. I'm not sure, but the in-ring work I've seen from her. I didn't see the pay-per-view this weekend, by the way.
Okay.
So I don't know how good it was. But the in-ring work I've seen from her, I didn't think it was that good. I thought it was terrible. And I would think that a girl that being around the business so long now, for a few years, it would be a lot better than what it was. Yeah. So I haven't seen it. I haven't seen any of her wrestling in TNA. I don't know if she's gotten better or not, and I hope she did. But I wouldn't mind checking out the bump. But yeah, like you said, it's stupid. You can take a big ass bump and make this big elaborate move, and people are going to say, "Oh, that match is awesome. That match is awesome." And really, it really wasn't. It was just the move that put over the match,
Right.
So
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about Curtis Axel. It's Joe Henning's. That's Joe Henning. That's Kurt Henning's son, Larry Henning's grandson. Both Kurt and Larry, former guests of Pro Wrestling Radio. Super, super cool guys, by the way. One day I'll have to tell you some Larry Henning stories. I mean, just super cool dude. But anyway, there seems to be this deal on the internet, and I actually have a blog ready to post. I'm going to publish it tomorrow on the Camel Clutch blog. It's like you have this group, you have this crowd that for months, sometimes some of these guys for years, they're saying you got to push Joe Henning, you got to get rid of this Michael McGillicuddy, you got to get rid of the name, you got to repackage him, blah 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 blah, and they finally do it. They put him with Paul Heyman. And he has these 3 weeks on television where he's getting these like crazy fluke wins over Triple H and John Cena twice. And you have people now complaining, a lot of those same people complaining and saying, well, you're pushing him, but you're not really pushing him because he's looking like a jobber because he's not getting these wins. And from my perspective, I'm looking at these people like they're missing the big picture. I think that this is a super hot angle. I think it's super hot to give this heel heat, this guy that you perceive as a jobber who's like getting these fluke wins over Cena and Triple H. I think it's great, and I think this guy has a lot of potential to be a super hot heel come the end of the summer.
And he's in the main event. He's got a spot on TV. He's getting seen. But here's the thing, devil's advocate. You can do one thing great, but the internet's still going to find a way to bitch and complain, no matter what you do.
Yeah, well, I think it's a segment. I think it's a segment. I think most of the people on the internet, they're pretty rational like you or me, but you have that little segment there.
Yeah, it's always. They're going to find something to bitch and complain about. It's nonstop. No matter what you do, somebody's going to go, oh, you're not doing this, or you should have did this, or oh, I'm offended, blah, blah, blah. It's just something that's always going to happen. We're not going to be able to get away from it. It is what it is.
Yeah. I think it's a great push, and I think that they've really, they've really given this guy the ball in that it's kind of up to him at this point. He's got a great storyline. He's got one of the best managers in the history of the business with him. He's in there, getting the rub with Triple H and John Cena. So I think at this point it's kind of up to him. I think the table's set, but it's whether he has it or he doesn't have it is going to be what makes or breaks this angle.
Right. He's good. I mean, the guy's hell of a talent. I like him. And to have Paul Heyman behind him is a genius idea because, of course, Paul's going to help get the guy over.
Yeah, definitely.
We haven't really got a chance to hear his mic skills yet, so we'll see what he does if he can project that out on the mic and draw there. But if he can't, that's what they got Paul Heyman for.
Yeah.
And not everybody's CM Punk or The Rock or even Mick Foley on the mic. Or people used to say the same thing about Dolph Ziggler. Oh, Dolph's great in the ring, but he can't talk. I'd beg to differ. I think Dolph can talk a lot.
I think he's a great talker.
Right, but I mean, they said it for so long, and they said the same thing. Guys like John Morrison, talented, but he can't talk. Again, it's what they let you do.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying that he can or can't talk. I don't know, and what people don't realize also is a lot of things are scripts that they give you to talk. It's how you deliver the script or what you do with what you're given. You have to make do with what you got, and you got to make the best opportunity out of what you got.
Yep. A couple other quick things I want to hit before we get into the CZW XPW talk. Just going back to TNA Slammiversary a little bit here. You had a main event. It was Bully Ray champ against Sting, and it was Sting's last crack at the title if he lost the match. He lost the match. There's a lot of talk that they're going to move into Bound for Glory, which is their next pay-per-view a couple of months down the line, with Hulk Hogan against Bully Ray. Now, Hogan's surgeries have been well documented. I mean, the guy is just a walking surgeon's dream. It's like he gets off the couch and he's got a broken back.
Right. I mean, all those hard years he put in.
Yeah.
On the road and having these 5-star matches.
Yeah, but I think it's like anything else, and as a wrestler, even if he's not, he's not working like somebody like you or like a Ric Flair or like a Shawn Michaels or Jeff Hardy, just the fact that he's getting in there and taking any kind of bumps, for 20-something years is going to take its toll on your body. Unless you're Ric Flair, the guy just seems to be healthy all the time. My point on Hogan is, Do you think that at this point that he's still viable? Do you think they should even do the match? Or do you think that it's at the point where, you know what, they really need to start looking to the future and having people pay to watch a crippled Hogan against Bully Ray isn't the way to go?
No, I don't think Hogan should be in there. The thing it's so, I don't know, what aggravates me about Hogan is, and again, I don't know because I'm not Hulk Hogan. I feel like there's guys who work these brutal schedules, and I think Hulk had not an easy schedule by means because Hulk was doing everything. But as far as in-ring work goes and beating your body up, you know, you take a guy like Bret Hart or Henning or any of the, you know, some Flair definitely. Look what Flair did all those years, you know, nonstop, just bam, 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 bam. And Hogan didn't do that. So it's baffles me how Hogan's body's just so beat up.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, but he's Hulk Hogan, you know, but I don't think he needs to wrestle in a main event for a title, especially at this stage and age.
Yep. Real quick, what do you think of the 3 stages of Hell match with Cena and Ryback? You think that's a little too much? You think they're setting up Ryback to fail in that? You know, I think he had a pretty decent match against Cena, although the psychology was just ridiculous. But I think, you know, overall he had a pretty decent matchup against Cena. But now you're asking these guys to go out there 3 different times on the same night. You think they could pull it off?
I don't know. I don't like the idea, but I hope it goes well. I tell you what I like seeing. I like seeing Ryback and Daniel Bryan Monday night. God, was that phenomenal.
Dude, I'll tell you what was phenomenal. I don't know if you saw SmackDown, but the way that the crowd reacted to Daniel Bryan at the end of SmackDown, it's just amazing. It almost gave me chills, and I wasn't even there. I mean, this guy really is the number 2 babyface right now in the WWE, whether they want to admit it or not. I mean, you and I have both talked about Daniel Bryan, and we're both fans. And, I mean, it's just ridiculous right now how over he is getting, and ridiculous in a good sense, but even more ridiculous that they're not embracing it, that they're not really running with this thing.
I think that guy can carry the company right now. I think they can get behind him, and he could carry the company, and I think they should let him. I think he should have the opportunity to, too.
Yeah, I think he's great. I mean, that scene at the end of SmackDown was just really wow. It was just really.
I didn't see SmackDown. Now I'm gonna have to go back and check it out.
Yeah, I mean, I would just watch the YouTube, watch this match on YouTube. It was just awesome. I mean, it was just one of those moments in wrestling that on Raw or SmackDown where you just kind of get chills as a wrestling fan. I mean, that hasn't happened in years.
He's a machine. He's awesome. It's crazy how good he is.
Yeah, totally. All right, so. Let's take a quick break here, and I think what we're going to do is we'll do our plugs now. We'll pimp our stuff, and then for the rest of the show, we'll talk some CZW and some XPW and kind of see what was going on in your side of town, what was going on in my side of town, and just what we were all thinking. So hopefully people out there will enjoy that. But Luke, I know you got a lot of things going on right now, so take as much time as you need and plug away.
Man, we just got mainly this Wildcat sports show going on June 8th this Saturday, like I plugged in the beginning of the show. I'm all gears, grinding towards that right now. And then once we get past that, we'll go into our next events. Got a lot of big bookings coming up around the country. Just got an offer to go to, not an offer, I got a seal of deal to go to England in October, so I'm really looking forward to that. And once they make announcements, I'll really blast it out there. But like I said, as far as plugging anything, I say check out wildcatsports.com. And check out our YouTube show. Check us out on Twitter. We're going to be plugging everything we're doing. Wildcat Sports is growing, and we're working on a lot of big projects, man. So get on that bandwagon now because soon it's going to be definitely one of the top productions in the country.
Yeah, it's awesome. So what's the YouTube username and the Twitter username so if people want to track you down?
At Wildcat Sports. That's Wildcat with a K, WILDKAT at Wildcat Sports, and the same thing on YouTube is just YouTube Wildcat Sports, and you'll see our channel. You subscribe to our channel, check us out on Twitter, like our page on Facebook, and all our announcements. And we put out free videos. So, we're not out here doing these iPay-per-views. Nothing against them. One day maybe we'll do some. But right now we're giving away free wrestling with some really good guys. You see a lot of top guys that you see in WWE or some of these top indie guys, and along with our guys from our school, and guys from all over, guys you might not be familiar with, but you'll see them and you'll fall in love with them, and it's free. So you can't beat free.
Yeah, I love free. I think that's awesome. I mean, I love the name, by the way. I don't even think I love the name, the branding. I think the branding. I think you have unlimited potential with that. I'm excited. I saw that video that you sent me earlier in the week, and it's real exciting stuff you got going on over there.
Yeah, and what we did was we wanted to do something different. I didn't want WPW or
right.
XWS or you know what I'm saying. So I went with a whole different look on it. And, I like to embrace the side that we are sports and entertainment. We are an entertainment business. We are a wrestling company, but we're also in the entertainment business. So that's where the whole Wildcat Sports comes from. And, I like to be different, and I like to branch out, and I like to stand out and have my product be, not in the same category as everybody else or everything going on.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I'll take a quick minute or two to plug my stuff. CamelClutchBlog.com. You can read wrestling and MMA blogs, sports blogs. That's over at CamelClutchBlog.com. And of course, you can follow along if you missed some of the pay-per-views and you want to find out what happened, or just look at the predictions, the preview. We have results up immediately after the WWE shows, usually the day after TNA, and there's predictions all week. So a lot of good stuff over there over at CamelClutchBlog.com. Of course, ProWrestlingRadio.com. That's where we're doing the show. You can listen to the show live on ProWrestlingRadio.com. If you miss it live, there are plenty of ways to listen to it. You don't have to download it if you don't want to. There's a player on ProWrestlingRadio.com. You can just play it. You can go to iTunes. You can subscribe to the iTunes link on there, and you'll get it right directly into your iTunes and your iPod or your iPad or whatever it is you have these days. Also, YouTube, the Pro Wrestling Radio YouTube channel. We throw it up on YouTube as well. So, yeah, it's ProWrestlingRadio.com. And also, if you want to follow me on Twitter, at Camel Clutch Blog. So, now that we got all that out of the way.
I also, real quick, I want to give a shout-out to WrestleChat.net, too. They always do a good job with their wrestling news and plugging the Wildcat and plugging things that are going on in the wrestling world. So definitely, if you're a wrestling news fan, I'd say check out WrestleChat.net.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge fan of theirs, friends with those guys. I just did their radio show a couple of weeks ago. They're big fans of you and have always been real supportive of me and my projects. So, I love those guys. So for up-to-date wrestling news, I do blogs. I'm more the opinion, but if you want the just straight down and dirty news, go to WrestleChat.net. They're good guys over there. All right, Luke. Here it is. We've been talking about this from the very first show, which I believe now, I think this is our fourth show that we're doing. So now we're talking about this over a month. And we're finally here. We're going to talk some XPW, CZW. I'm not sure how many of those fans are still around. I hear from them still from time to time. I'm sure you hear from them from time to time, so I know they're out there. And I just think that even if you're not necessarily an XPW, CZW fan, I just think there are some good things that happened back then that even if you're a wrestling fan that you can kind of sink your teeth into. So first, let me throw it at you, and then I'll tell you where we came from. As an XPW wrestler, how is it presented to you, the talent, that A, you guys were coming to Philadelphia, and B, that you guys were coming after CZW?
For me, it was major because I was living in Oakland, California. I just got on with XPW prior to that, a few shows before that. There wasn't going to be bringing everybody on their roster over to Philly, and it was going, to the ECW arena, and it really wasn't about the CZW thing. I think people made that up because I don't think the goal was to mess with CZW. I think it became an issue once CZW had a new wrestling company coming into their territory, which would make sense. You know what I'm saying? You don't want some out of state company coming to your territory where you're doing well, and you don't want them to take away from your product. So for me, when I heard we were going to Philly, I was like, holy hell, I got to get on the show because they're going to be wrestling in Philadelphia because Philadelphia was the wrestling capital of the world.
Yeah.
There was, if there's one place you want to wrestle, it was Philadelphia at the ECW arena. So, and honestly, it was XPW's demise. XPW might have still been around at least for a few more years if they had such a big ego to go to Philadelphia.
Now, was it Shane Douglas that was driving the whole Philadelphia thing? Was he even in XPW at that point?
I think, he was. I think it was both. I think it was Shane and I think it was Rob because Rob was an idiot. Honestly, he was a freaking moron. Rob Black was an idiot. and still, I'm sure to this day, is a complete idiot.
Yeah.
This guy thought he knew wrestling when he knew jack shit about wrestling. I couldn't stand the guy. He was a very selfish asshole, so to speak. He thought he knew it all, and the whole thing was he wanted to go to Philadelphia because he wanted to take over ECW. He wanted to be ECW. He wanted to stick it in Paul Heyman's face because supposedly he got used because Paul Heyman and them took money from him, and they didn't give him any creative control, from what I hear. Like, he wanted to be more involved in ECW, and basically what they did was just take his money. So he wanted to go, hey, F you, I'm coming to Philadelphia and we're going to take over. But, we seen what happened. Here's the thing. You can't fly 50 guys to Philadelphia and draw 1,000 people. You just can't do it. That's just retarded.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I thought it was ridiculous when I first heard it. Well, let me tell you how it's kind of presented to us. How it was presented to us was a little different the way it was presented to us. It was presented to us by Zandig, in that these guys were coming after us because they were pissed that we started using Messiah. Because we booked Messiah as a mystery opponent for Justice Pain on the one show. I think it was after Cage of Death 3, so it would have been January 2002. And as soon as we started using Messiah, from the way that it was portrayed to us, that at that point, Rob Black had it out for us. He just wanted to come and just put us out of business. I mean, I'm sure you heard about what happened to Messiah and his thumbs around that time.
Right.
Yeah. So it was kind of put to us like, these guys are coming here, they're coming to war, they're coming to put us out, they're pissed that, that we're using, that we use Messiah, nobody can go to work for them if they contact you, you're not allowed to work for them and work for us, because it wasn't uncommon at the time for somebody to be wrestling in CZW and then wrestle in like Jersey All Pro and then wrestle for Kettner's company. I mean, it was what it was. Although Zandig would always get kind of salty about it, but it was like, this is really a war, and I think that it really kind of went to another level when M-Dog 20 and Josh Prohibition debuted for you guys, when they came over there for you guys, because they were taking two. Well, I wouldn't say two key guys, because Prohibition, I like those guys a lot. I mean, I was friends with both of those guys, and it's no disrespect to Prohibition, but Dog was kind of the star there. And Dog was the guy that I know that John was really. I think John was going to put the junior belt on him back then, which kind of meant something.
They were hot. They were a hot tag team.
Yeah, and especially Dog. Dog was really the hot one.
But he did all the crazy stuff. He was the one, climbing the beams.
And he had charisma. I mean, he had like a world of charisma where Prohibition really didn't have that charisma.
Right. Yeah. So, it's kind of like me and you. I got all the charisma and just, carry. No.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, listen, man, you can climb all the beams you want. My old ass ain't getting up there.
So no, I think when it came to that, I'll be honest with you. I had several talks with Zandig why I was at XPW, because I was looking to leave because I didn't like Rob Black.
Yeah.
So I mean, I talked to him, and Zandig was like, "Oh yeah, you're the only guy we're interested in using over there," and it was just one of them things where people started jumping ship. We had Justice Payne come over, and this person was contacting, that person was contacting, and then, a few XPW guys were contacting CZW, and it became into that battle of, butting heads against each other, and, who's going to be where, and it got to the point to where I think every show you thought, who's going to pop up next? Who's going to be on this CZW show? Who's, so it just became a fight of whose dick's bigger.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, that's exactly what it was. And another dig, when Prohibition and Dog debuted, they debuted in like the Backseat Boys gimmick. They were wearing like silver pants and stuff, so it was kind of a little dig there. But it's funny that you brought up Justice Payne, because Payne was kind of like, no pun intended, like the franchise player in CZW for a while. He was a champ, but I think there was going to be a move in a new direction, because it was a new year, and I think CZW had gotten a lot different by that point. There were a lot of talented guys on that roster, and I think Zandig was going to make a move. Well, I know he had a new champion, but he was going to kind of, I think he was kind of looking at keeping some newer guys on top. And I remember we got kicked out of the arena because I think Rob Black signed that exclusive. He signed that exclusive contract with the arena. So we went to this crap hole building. There was a strip club attached to the building. So in the locker room, the boys would be poking like peepholes through like the wall so they could like watch like the strippers and stuff like that.
I knew I should have went to CZW. I knew it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I remember, so here's what I was going to say was, I remember we got to this dump in the middle of the afternoon, and Zandig had this like, this important speech that nobody could be late for. And, I mean, who knew what he was going to say? So we all get in this room, and Zandig gives this long speech. It was at that point where he told us that Justice Payne had jumped. And, again, this whole it's war and and getting everybody fired up. And it was kind of weird because, Payne wasn't really well liked in the locker room. So it was like you had this one sense about him in that, like, wow, it's kind of effed up that, like, they took, like, our franchise guy. And then you had this other sense. It was like, well, he wasn't really well liked anyway. So it's like, let him go. But, like, Zandig made it out like it was this big deal. So it was a real weird scene in the afternoon that day.
Yeah, it's I mean, like I said, eventually I went to CZW.
Yeah.
And one thing I got from that, I hated being labeled as an XPW guy.
Yeah.
I hate being labeled as any guy. I'm a wrestler. So I have to wrestle on shows to make my money and make my living. So as soon as I got there, long after, they had stopped, XPW had shut down, people were still labeling me as an XPW guy. Oh, you're XPW. Oh, we got to do this to you. Oh, and the first thing Zandig did was bury me.
Yeah.
I jobbed like 4 or 5 matches in a row to Messiah.
Yeah.
And Adam Flash. And frankly, those guys couldn't keep up with me.
Yeah.
I'm carrying these guys in matches, and I'm doing the best I can. And these guys, are on a completely different level as me. And, no offense to them, it's just calling it what it is.
Yeah.
I'm in here busting my ass trying to put on the best matches possible when I should have been in there with the, probably like the guys like Ruckus and G's and, or Justice Payne's or or
Sanjay or Sanjay.
Or Sanjay, which I got to wrestle Sanjay on one show. I think that was PWU, though. I don't remember what it was. But yeah, guys like Sanjay. But instead I'm wrestling guys like Adam Flash and Messiah, and they're having these guys bury me. And then they want to put over the fact that I'm not getting over. And I say, well, how are people going to get behind me if you, just job me out, if you're beating me out?
Dude, welcome to my booking meetings. Welcome to my booking conversations with John Zandig. I mean, those are what those conversations were. That was the worst thing about working there, and I loved working there, and I loved the boys, and I even loved working for Zandig. I mean, he was I certainly had my moments where I hated his guts, but overall, I mean, he gave me a shot, and he paid me pretty well. After a while for an announcer, and if it wasn't for my run there, I wouldn't have been able to get my other opportunities. So I really do owe him a lot, but we would have these booking meetings where like somebody like you would come in and, and I would throw all these ideas at him, how to get this guy over or that guy over. And he would have these petty little grudges, whether it was against the CZW or an XPW guy, whether it was against a guy who, I don't know, who pissed in his milk, a year ago. I don't know. He would have these petty little grudges, or, and he would be jealous of a lot of guys. Like a guy like Sanjay was started getting booked in TNA, so he was getting a bigger following. So what does John do? Instead of capitalizing on that, he buried him and had him jobbing at everybody. And I'd say to him, why are you jobbing? I mean, not only should he not be jobbing him, we should be putting our belt on him because he's on TV every week. And he'd say, well, you can't count on him to come every week. And believe me, the kid was there any time he needed it. But that was his fault. That was the fault of John, is that he was just a lot of petty with a lot of this stuff.
And I hated that, man, because I had to deal with it a lot. And that's eventually why I left. I told him, I talked to Ty Gordon. That's why I went to PW at the time. I told John, I said, John, if you're not going to do something with me, what are your plans for me?
Yeah.
Because I wanted to be with CZW. I wanted to do more. I wanted to work with some of those guys, and then I heard that they were going to put a belt on me. And then, again, I signed an MTV deal. I told John I signed an MTV deal, and he told me since I signed that deal, he wasn't going to put the belt on me now.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, well, at this point, boom, I'll see you later. I'm going to somewhere where I'm going to get a push at.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, that's one of the big reasons why I left. I mean, I was in a different position than you, but I just got frustrated. I just got frustrated because, you know, I love that place. I loved it. You know, like it was my family. I mean, I was there for 7-8 years, and I just wanted to see it succeed. And I would spend all these extra hours and all this extra time helping whenever I could, or sitting in booking meetings. And after a while, you know, it's just like you throw your hands up in the air, and it's like you can't do anything because, you know, you're working for a guy that's just, you know, very immature when it comes to that stuff. And, you know, he was smart about a lot of things because he did a lot. He did a lot of things right, but it was that petty, you know, stuff about him that really got to me. So what about Rob Black? You know, I've talked a lot about Zandig. Tell me about Rob Black. Tell me about working for Rob Black.
Well, Rob was an idiot. He was an egomaniac. I mean, he was, like I said in the beginning, he was a complete idiot. All he cared about was, you know, trying to prove that he is the best and biggest thing, and it wasn't. He just had money. I mean, you can look at his product. We had some good things come out of XPW, but we also had some really bad things there. Kevin Kleinrock and Ryan Katz, who was GQ Money, really were the guys that made XPW successful because they were the guys who had heads on their shoulders and, you know, and booked the proper things and put the right guys in the right matches together. Any good idea really came from those guys.
Yeah.
You know, I liked being there. I liked working with guys like Supreme, and you know, and it gave me my start. It gave me my real first name in the business where I got to make a name for myself. But I'll give you a Rob Black story, how egotistical Rob Black is. One day I flew into Philadelphia, flew in from Oakland, and I had to be picked up at the airport. Well, Rob Black and Shane Douglas happened to be coming in at the same time. So they said, okay, well, I think I called Kevin or GQ Money or somebody and said, hey, I'm here, you know, to get picked up. Okay, well, Rob's going to pick you up because he's there, so just ride over with him. So I meet Rob and them. I get in the car. And one of the first things I did, now I've been around the guy for probably about 6 months at this point, you know, on several different shows. And, you know, we get in the car, hey, how you doing, you know, blah, blah, blah. So I just randomly asked to say, how's everything going, man? How you doing? And he looks at me and he goes, I can't believe I'm talking to you.
Wow.
And I'm like, what? He's like, I don't talk to nobodies. You know, you got to be somebody for me to have a conversation with. You know, you have to have a name in this business for me to have a conversation with.
Wow. I'm surprised you didn't punch him in the mouth.
No, you know what I told him? Fuck, who the fuck you think you are? I don't care, you know?
Yeah.
But at the same time, when I told him that, I earned his respect because I didn't back down from him. I didn't give a shit if he was the boss or not, but at that point, I didn't care if I had his respect, you know, because if I just mouthed it off to him, I lost all respect for him at that point.
Yeah.
It's like, how can you have any respect for someone who's supposed to be your boss and tells you something like that?
Yeah.
It's you know, that just goes to show you how big of an ego this guy is. Somebody who's done nothing in this business. And I'll give you a prime example again. As a punishment for me putting my hands up for a chair shot I got from Supreme that Rob Black was furious about, they made me get crucified and threatened Supreme's job. That like and this is where one of my bad concussions came from.
Yeah.
I had to get crucified with my hands where I couldn't protect myself. And Supreme had to hit me in the head 5 times with the chair unprotectedly. And they told Supreme this, that his job depended on it. And, like, he actually broke down to me after because he did not want to do it. You know?
Yeah.
And I understand the position that he was in. And it was all because Rob Black thought I was a sissy for putting my hands up for a chair shot.
Yeah. Wow.
And, you know, the chair shot was still brutal, even though I put my hands up, because, as you know, if somebody hits you with a chair, what are you going to do?
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
You're going to put your hands up, right? If somebody's swinging a baseball bat at you, what are you going to do? You're going to put your goddamn hands up.
Of course.
Rob Black, who's never taken anything or been in any kind of wrestling training or put his body through anything in life, you know, this is how much.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. I mean, even Steve Austin used to put his hands up for chair shots.
Right. It's sickening. And that's where I really became close with a guy like Jerry Lynn, because Jerry Lynn went to bat for me. Jerry Lynn threw a fit that night once he heard that.
Yeah.
Jerry Lynn threw a fit and said the kid did what he had to do. The kid did it right. It looked vicious. You know, if somebody's swinging a damn club at you, you're going to freaking put your hands up.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just dude. Like I said, it's disgusting to me.
Yeah. Now, was there any? Now, how can I phrase this? Was there any attention that Rob paid to like what was going on? Like Zandig was talking a lot of smack on XPW and Rob Black. Ring of Honor were talking a lot of smack on XPW and Rob Black. Here's a story. When I think I've already told you this, when Ring of Honor first started up, I was kind of caught in the middle and picked CZW and blah, blah, blah. So here XPW comes to town, and the next month over at the Guard Armory, John Zandig's in the ring hugging Rob Feinstein. I was pissed. I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. I quit that job. Ring of Honor was red hot. I quit that job. I could be red hot right now with the Red Hot Company. I could probably be on a better path to a WWE job than I am here. And I did this out of loyalty. But the first time you need help from somebody, you're in the ring giving that guy a hug. But yet, I'm pressured to quit and show you loyalty. And it was at that point where, I kind of had it in my head. And I quit a few years later, but I kind of checked out at that point because I thought it was a real stab in the back to me and anybody else that had the opportunity to go work at Ring of Honor, but stayed at CZW because we were told, that it was this big war for Philly and blah, blah, blah. So, that said, did Rob Black pay attention to it? Did he talk about Zandig or CZW or Ring of Honor or Philly, or was he just kind of doing his own thing and really didn't care?
I think he didn't care. I think he cared. He might have talked to everybody else. He might have talked to Shane or he might have talked to Kevin and those guys about it. But I guess publicly he felt that he was better than everything. And he often said stuff like that, that he was better and that we didn't have any competition and that we're not an indie. And that was one thing that was commonly said all the time. We're not an effing indie. We're not an effing indie. Well, I'm like, well, I think we are an indie because nobody here is getting weekly checks except maybe Shane Douglas and and he's sucking you dry.
So. Yeah. Oh wow. Okay. That's interesting. And again, kind of makes me a little mad. Working for CZW at the time and hearing all this stuff about war, and it was really, if you think about it, it was just John kind of manipulating his guys not to go because I'm sure XPW was paying more money because he had more money. I'm sure he was paying more money. Than CZW.
He was throwing it away.
Yeah.
He was throwing it away. And what's sad is, I'm sure John didn't care that your feelings were hurt.
No, I'm sure he didn't.
That's why I really, some things in wrestling make me sick, man. Some things in wrestling just make me sick because I try to be a fair guy. And, and loyalty, I'm very loyal, but sometimes, loyalty will also stab you in the back.
Yeah, absolutely. So, XPW, there was that point where that came where XPW had the lease on the ECW arena where they had that exclusive lease where they paid some ridiculous amount for that. I think it was like $50,000 or $60,000 for the lease. I'm sure it made all the boys happy that they're paying $60,000 for a broken down bingo hall when you guys, probably could use more money in your paychecks.
Roger probably got a big fat steak that night.
Oh, I'm sure he did. I'm sure he probably got a dozen, and who knows what parties he got invited to from Black and Borden. But so when did you find out as an XPW guy that it was over? When did you find out like that the Philly arena, was done? It looked good at one point. It looked like you guys were in, you guys were the show, nobody else was going in, and then one morning it's like, I get a call from Zandig, we're back in.
I think the point was, the show I was supposed to be on the last show they had there. And I was supposed to wrestle Super Crazy, which I was extremely, extremely hyped about. I was like, hell yeah, me and Super Crazy are going to tear it up, man. I was going full-fledged into it. I was wrestling Super Crazy. It was a double shot. I was going to wrestle Super Crazy one night. Oh, God, I'm trying to remember who I was supposed to wrestle the next night. But it was another one, but it was another good name. But I was really, really pumped up about wrestling Super Crazy. And they sent my flight info. And I got dropped off at the airport. I went to the gate to check in and found out that I didn't have a ticket.
Wow.
So, yeah, real wild. So I'm calling. Nobody's answering my phones. Eventually, Kevin Kleinrock answers. Kevin gets very upset about it. Kevin is pissed because Kevin was one of my guys.
Yeah.
Kevin took me in. Kevin liked me, and Kevin helped me a lot. So, and him and GQ Money were the guys that were really behind me there, along with Vic Grimes, of course, because Vic was my trainer. But Vic's the one who presented me to them. But so when that happened, I was just like, man, that's a shitty thing to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That
absolutely.
was a real shitty thing to do. So, but because of that, I ended up getting on with NWA Wildside at the time. And, I was like, you know what? Hell, I'm going to jump in a car with these guys and go to Wildside for the weekend because, Wildside was getting good recognition. It was they had their TV spots here and there. And, it was pretty big.
Yeah,
on
Wildside was getting pretty hot around then.
Yeah, it was. It was pretty hot. So that, I needed something to really. I had moved back to Louisiana at that point, and there was no wrestling anywhere around me. So I really needed something to get me in so I can, stay in the ring and do shows and be, get better and grow. So if it wasn't for that, man, I probably would have never got on it with Wildside, and I probably wouldn't be where I am today or as good as I am today.
Yeah. And, that's something I want to talk to you about as well. Somewhere down the line is NWA Wildside, because I remember around that time period they were really hot. I was hoping I would go down there, but they didn't really need anybody like me. But I was a fan. We got their show up here. I like Stephen Prazak, their commentator, and
Bill Behrens knew what he was doing, and it was a prime example of smoke and mirrors, man. It was run out of this little shed, so to say, in the middle of nowhere. And some of the best talent around the world came from it at one point.
Yeah, because we were
AJ Styles. It had a WCW developmental deal, which eventually got Bill Behrens his WWE developmental deal. It was just they have so many guys that were coming out of Wildside at the time. And kudos to Bill Behrens because he was the guy who was the mastermind and put it all together.
Yeah, and I remember at one point there was a talent exchange with CZW and Wildside, and some of the Wildside talent that came up. I think Murder One came up. Tank, I think, was one of them that came up. AJ Styles came up at one point, but I don't know if he was still Wildside. I think it might have been a little later. But there was a lot of good talent that were coming up. Sal Renaro,
yeah.
Jimmy Rave, Sal Renaro.
Right. All those guys, man, they had some very, very good talent, and it's nice to see a company have so many guys, branch out, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do with Wildcat.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. I think it's a great way, great place to leave off. So maybe on one of the shows in the coming weeks, when it's a slow news week, we'll start talking a little bit about your experiences in Wildside. I'd love to talk about it because I know a lot of those guys that were down there with you at the time, and I watched. I used to watch up here all the time, and I was a big fan. So I definitely love to get into that sometime over the next couple of weeks. All right.
Yeah. I'm all about it whenever. There's so many subjects and topics we want to talk about, but we never have enough time. So it's awesome though. Yeah, that means we're doing really well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're over an hour, so I'm not gonna hold you here anymore. You've already given plenty of time tonight. I know how busy you are, but I want to thank you as always for joining me here and doing the show. It was a lot of fun. I'm glad we finally were able to devote a half hour to that CZW, XPW stuff. It's just, I kind of lived it on this end, and I know you lived it on that end, so I was really curious to kind of hear like how, what was being perceived and what was being presented, I guess, would be a better word to you guys over there.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's more. I just, like I said, honestly, I don't remember, man. They had so many, it's not stuff that probably I want to remember, but I don't. It was so long ago, and there's no, some of the key moments stand out, but I don't remember, that big of an issue other than coming to territory and steal, basically the Americans, well, not Americans, the English coming over to America and stealing. Killing Indians, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Same thing.
I will say this before we wrap up. I actually met and worked. We were on the same show together, you and I. I met and worked with Chris Kloss, their announcer out in that San Francisco show that kind of just disappeared somewhere. And Chris was awesome. I had a freaking blast working with him. It was me, him, and Larry Zabisco that called the show. And Chris is a funny cat. And
Chris is a cool dude.
Yeah, the only time I ever met him, but it was kind of funny. We were kind of playing up the whole thing, of the XPW guy and the CZW guy. But I had a blast. I liked him a lot. I wish I could work with him again someday. He was a blast.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope we all work together someday and we're rich and,
Yeah, definitely. You got to tell your buddy Kevin to dust off that San Francisco tape and put it out there.
He's working on a lot of things, man. So Kevin's always got his hands in on something. So you never know. Down the line, we might be doing something big time.
I would love to see that show. I mean, it was kind of historic to go to the Cow Palace.
He doesn't have it though. I don't think Kevin has that tape. I wouldn't mind seeing it either because that's where me and Alcatraz wrestled Al Snow and Blue Meanie. I wouldn't mind, and I was skin and bones in, so I'd love to see it too.
Yeah. All right. Well, good stuff. All right. So Luke, best of luck with Wildcat and all that good stuff, and follow him, Wildcat Sports. It's all over YouTube, Twitter, CamelClutchBlog.com for me, or at CamelClutchBlog. And if you missed any of this show, you're listening to it live, and you missed any of it, you can catch it all on ProWrestlingRadio.com, as well as all kinds of archives of old shows and old interviews and all that fun stuff. So it looks like, if I'm looking at my schedule now, and this is a real rough estimate here, so Luke and I will confirm off air, looks like we'll probably do our next show around June 19th or so in about 2 weeks. So we'll see you then. And with that said, have a good night.
Spread the word.
Yes, spread the word, and if you subscribe to us on iTunes, give us a good rating on there. We could use it. Oh, and CamelClutchBlog.com. Camel Clutch Blog also has an Android app with an iTunes app coming. We have an Android app where you can actually listen to the pro wrestling radio shows on the app. So it's free. Yeah. In the Google store. Yep, it's free. It's on me. Believe me, it's on me. All right, we'll see you next.
Send us some checks too. Send us some money, people. We got kids. We got mouths to feed.
I could use it. We'll see you next time.
Peace.